Guys, welcome back. Welcome back to part two. If you were here last night for part one of our, I guess this will be our Halloween, 2 night Halloween marathon live streams. Because last night we started, I intended to do it all last night, but 4.5 hours in, we were only halfway through. So we decided to call it quits for last night and finish it tonight. So thank you to whoever was here last night. Thank you to whoever's back tonight, or if you're watching replay, thank you so much. And if you missed the first part last night, so you can always go back and watch replay crew. You might have to watch it in several different sittings because, like I said, it was about 4.5 hours long. But I do that a lot. Some channels I watch do really live podcast or live streams 4 or 5 hours long, so I'll sit down and watch like an hour at a time, or how much ever time I have at a particular point in time, and then save it to my watch later list so I won't lose it, and I'll eventually get it all watched. And I forgot I was going to put the link to the part one in the description, and I forgot to, but it's in the it's under the mysteries and conspiracies playlist, so just check that playlist. I think I remember to put it there. Anyway, I'm still trying to recover from last night. I think I've about recovered my voice. But anyway, so tonight we're going to be finishing up on we're looking at some haunted true crime locations last night, and just anything else that happened to come up, spooky, Halloween related or not. So just your favorite movies, horror movies, whatever kind of movies, music. Food will inevitably come up, I'm sure, and who knows what else. Once again, it will be a free-for-all. And for anybody new here, we are usually more serious on the channel. This is a true crime awareness channel, so we usually share missing persons, cold cases, unsolved homicides, unidentified Jane Does, John Does, and unfortunately baby does. So we usually do every Monday, usually on Mondays, sometimes on Tuesdays. We do our missing person Monday live stream, where we went through the 50 states, featured about some cases from all 50 states. Now we're going back through the states and featuring a city from each state. Last week or this week, I forgot. Yeah, this week, which was on Tuesday, we did Anchorage, Alaska, and then this coming Monday, the day after tomorrow, we will be doing Phoenix, Arizona, because I'm trying to go in alphabetical order in the states this time. So we'll be doing Phoenix. I've got all the cases picked out and my slideshow made. Tomorrow, I just have to get all the research and information put together. Sorry, I said I had my voice back. And tonight I have my purple orange cup, my orange cup. But tonight I have Coke Zero tonight with nothing added. I debated on adding a little something to it, but I didn't do it. So anyway, buckle up. Hopefully it won't be 4.5 hours, because I do want to be done by the time Dave, Al on the Prowl, starts his live stream. He usually starts it around anywhere between 11:30 and midnight 30 Eastern time on a Saturday night, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So he should be doing his tonight. So we want to be done, or we want to be done with mine by the time he comes on. And anybody who would like to, who can is a night owl who likes to stay up late, can feel free to hop over to Dave's channel. And somebody, I'm sure, will put the link in for his live stream tonight. He does one live stream a week, True Crime Weekly, where he covers true crime. He usually has a cold case of the week, and just whatever happens to be other things that happen to be happening. Blah, blah, blah. I promise I did not put anything in my drink. Anything else that might be going on in the true crime realm. So anyway, we will join Dave later. unless he is not going live for some reason. But anyway, let me quit babbling for a minute and see who is here. Fingers crossed, things are working fairly smoothly right now across the board. Now, that could change at any minute. I kept disappearing last night. StreamYard kept kicking me out last night, so hopefully that won't happen. But we have Miss Paula is here again. She was here last night. Thank you so much for joining us again. Miss Stormy is back. She joined us last night. Good to see you back, ma'am. Chris checked in. He says, I'm choosing to skip it because I'm probably going to be tired. Yeah, I understand. Definitely I do. But thanks for checking in, Chris. Much appreciated. He says he is having a great night. Excellent, excellent. Boston Christian is back. Boston was in here last night. Hello, hello. Welcome. Our buddy Mustang is here. Welcome back. Mustang was here last night too for the duration till the end, all 4.5 hours. So I appreciate that. And please do check out all these wonderful creators. Mustang has a channel. Sleuthy Sweetheart, Stormy, I believe, has her channel. Miss Paula has a channel. Let me go back through and make sure I didn't not forgetting anybody. So please do check out all our friend channels and see what they got going on over on their channels. Mostly true crime stuff. Let's see. I still feel like everything is not set up right, but anyway, it's just me. It's just me. Good. Miss Stormy says, you inspired me to watch American Horror Story Hotel. I'm on the last episode. It's so good. I know. Hotel was one of my favorite seasons. Hotel and then Coven, whatever season that was, maybe season 3. I can't keep the seasons right. I can keep the seasons, what they're called and what they were about. But yeah, Hotel and Coven were probably my favorite 2 seasons so far that I watched. And I've watched, I think they're up to 12 seasons. I've watched the first 9 seasons. I've got to binge watch at some point when I get time. And I forgot to check to see if my articles were going to load tonight once again. Last night I had trouble as always getting my articles to load, so I'll start loading them just to see how we're going to do. So yeah, I'm going to have to do some binge watching on American Horror Story and get caught up with the 10, 11, and 12. Welcome, Seal. Good to have you here. That's a new name for me. We're glad you found us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ooh, bunches and bunches of comments just popped up. Let me get back down. There we are. I'm assuming you know Chris. Seal said hello to Chris. So Chris, if you're inviting people, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who shares the live streams out so that people can come join us. Like I said, once again, for anybody coming in new, this is a fun night. Part 2 of our Halloween episode live stream. And then Monday, we will be back to our Missing Person Monday. And once again, we're featuring mostly cold cases, missing person cold cases from Phoenix, Arizona this week. So please do subscribe if you haven't, set your notification so you know when I go live. And I'm probably going to be able to do a Thursday, this coming Thursday, and a live stream Thursday night. We'll get back to some true crime news. I have lots of things saved up in my browser that I need to go through. Lots of missing persons cases that have come around that have been popping up in my news feed because, they've been missing for, I think one is 10 years, one is 12 years, and so on and so on, and so forth, that we'll go over and get those pushed out to bring more awareness to them. And a lot of them have had some new information, some updates to them. So I'm going to share those with y'all. As usual, my voice is cracking already. Let's see who else is here. Yes, absolutely. It is nice seeing everyone. Thank you. Yeah, it still says thank you. Thanking Chris for the invite. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. We always enjoy good people in here. Hey, Ramiro. Is that Ramiro? Good to see you. It's been a while, Ramiro. I was wondering about you the other day. We haven't seen you in a while, but good to have you back. So you just popped in to say hello. Excellent. I feel like my wires are crossed again. Anyway, as usual. Oh, well, I hope you're doing okay. Romero said just had surgery, so I'm not active lately on social media. Well, thoughts and prayers and good vibes are going out to you. Hope you get to feeling better soon. There's our friend Junior. He made it back. Hello, Junior. Good to see you. Junior was here last night. I don't know if he was here for all of it, but he was here for a lot of it. So good to see Junior back. Thank you very much. Mustang is getting in links. There's Miss Paula's link. Stormy says, I've seen the first season at Coven Hotel now, and after this, I'm just going to start all over and catch up to the current season. Yeah. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. All the seasons, in my opinion, all the ones that I've watched, 1 through 9, are good. Like I said, I have my favorites so far of the ones that I've watched, but they're all, in my opinion, they're all good. Thank you very much. There is Miss Stormy's link. Yeah, Mustang says, yeah, just let Mustang know if anybody else has a channel that I is either new here or that I have not got to yet or missed. Just let her know when she will throw in the link. Thank you, everybody. I always forget to thank you guys that have wrenches for helping out, putting in links and everything else that you do. Let's see. I love Boston Christians. Always love the emojis. Thank you very much. Junior said he just subscribed to Miss Paula. Hey, Princess. Welcome back. Princess was here last night also. So good to see you back. Let's see. Just don't want to miss anybody. Thank you very much. There is Princess's YouTube channel. Princess, I believe, is also on Facebook. Thank you very much. Romero says, love and peace, y'all. I'll try and swing back for longer once I get moving more. Absolutely. You take care of yourself. Your health comes before anything. So we hope you get to feeling better soon. Yes, Sleuthy Sweetheart said, I'm Stormy, for those who don't know. Mark is back. Welcome back, Mark. Mark was here last night for the marathon. Part 1 of the marathon. Let's see. Yep, the clocks, we gained an hour tonight. So set your clocks back if you have any, what I call the old-fashioned clocks. Now, everything else, as far as like satellites, electronic devices, phones, computers, will automatically change. But we have, I think here in the house, we have one old-timey clock that we have to set back, but everything else will change. So we'll gain an hour of sleep tonight, which is fantastic. Sleep is always good, especially when, if you're like me, sleep is hard to come by. I don't know. I guess the older I get, I don't sleep as much. You know, when I was a teenager, young adult, I could sleep, 23 hours out of 24 hours. I still feel like I didn't sleep enough. And now, I'm up all night, can't sleep. But anyway, thank you. Mark says it was nice catching the live last night. Thank you. Yep, fall. Yep. Stormy says, oh shoot, fall back. Yeah, you fall back. All right, I think I am caught up. So we will get started. So it won't take us, I think we have, we'll go through really quick. So yeah, Stormy says she doesn't sleep well. She takes sleeping gummies, still doesn't work. I know. I used to have a prescription strength sleeping pill. I didn't like them, but they kept me up more than anything. But I have just over the counter stuff, and then I'll switch out the over the counter with the like melatonin, valerian root, things like that. Because if you take one thing, just one type, a long time, you kind of build up an immunity to it, and it doesn't work as well. So I try to switch out what I take to help me sleep, but I have to at least take a melatonin. And if melatonin doesn't work, I'll take my over the counter to at least help me fall asleep. Now, whether I stay asleep, that's the problem. Because sometimes I don't have trouble falling asleep. It's just staying asleep. I'll sleep for a couple of hours and then I'm up again, awake again. All right. So, let me get my slideshow up here. So, once again, last night we started, I think I had 10 in all, and we made it through 6, haunted true crime locations. So we have 4 to go through tonight. And then once again, we had tortilla soup for supper tonight, which I love. I love tortilla soup. And evidently I forgot to take my indigestion pill after I ate, so I apologize. But yeah, since it's finally cooling off here, we do a lot of soups and stews and things of that nature during the winter time here in Arkansas when it does decide to cool off a little bit. And it's pretty chilly now. I've got my window in my bedroom just barely cracked, and I'm a little bit chilly. I might should have gotten like one of my flannel shirts to wear over my t-shirt tonight, but anyway, it'll be all right. I'd rather be cold than hot because I stay hot 99% of the time. Stormy says, really, you can get those in gummies? She says her gummies are melatonin and ashwagandha. I might have to look for those next time I'm in Wally World. Try those. I don't think once again, I obviously tried to, use melatonin. I don't think I've seen the ashwagandha, but I don't think I've tried ashwagandha. Excellent. Yes, you can. All right. All right. So we'll just quickly go through the 6 that we went through last night. We did the I can talk. Villisca axe murder house. I'm sure most of you, a lot of the ones we covered last night were some of the more well-known, supposedly haunted true crime locations. And even if you're not into the spooky paranormal thing, just the history of the places that we talk about, I enjoy that as much as the supposed hauntings and the lore behind that. But we'll look at the Villisca house. But for anybody who doesn't know, just briefly, in June 1912, 8 people, the Moore family and their they had 2 sisters that were spending the night, were bludgeoned to death in the home with an axe. The crime was never solved. That we talked about last night. There have been several suspects or people that have been theorized to have done it. But as of 2025, nothing concrete on anybody has ever been proven. So today the house is preserved as it was at the time of the homicides. It has no electricity, no plumbing. Visitors, you can book overnight stays there. And in the live stream from last night, I went back today and put in all the links, and I tried to include official website links for places that you can either do if they do tours, if you can spend the night there, and apparently you can book overnight stays at the Villisca Axe Murder House. So check out part 1, check the description box, and the link to that website is there. You can check it out, look at prices, what everything entails. If you happen to be in that area and then have the time and the money to stay there. So, but it has no electricity, no plumbing. Visitors who book overnight stays have reported hearing children's voices and seeing shadowy figures. So that's where the haunted part comes in. And we went over that. Like I said, we watched part 1 if you missed it. We talked about the Myrtles Plantation, which is in St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's rumored to be built on Native American burial ground, but I think that was the one that some of the Native Americans that were in that area said, no, it's not, was not built on Native American ground. I could be mistaken. It might have been one of the other ones that we talked about. So it's a site of multiple documented deaths. The ghost of Chloe is said to appear in photos, while the ghost of former owner William Winter is said to reenact his own death on the staircase. So that was gruesome yet interesting. We talked about, of course, Lizzie Borden, the Lizzie Borden house. I'm sure we all know the story of Lizzie Borden. But it is in, it's now the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. It's in Fall River, Mass. But for anybody who may not know, in 1892, Andrew and Abby Borden were brutally, their lives were brutally taken in their home. Their daughter Lizzie was the primary suspect. She did go to trial. She was acquitted, but she was forever linked to the crime, because I think that's kind of a divided camp. The Lizzie Borden, is some people, I've watched lots of stuff and read lots of stuff about Lizzie Borden, and watched creators and listened to podcasts. And some people, think that she did do it, and then there are people that think she didn't do it, that it was somebody else. And they did mention, I believe, I can't remember who it was. It was a man that is a person of, what we would call a person of interest these days, that people think could possibly have been the one that did it. So, but so the home now operates as a bed and breakfast where guests can sleep in the rooms where the actual homicides occurred. They've reported hearing whispers and other strange noises. And I believe when we were going through the information last night, I think it said the most requested room that people wanted to stay in is the bedroom where Abby, the stepmother, was killed. I think that was the most requested room. So, but I've always thought that it's a spooky looking house, but I always thought that it was a very beautiful house, at least from the outside. And the inside that I've seen pictures of is very nice too. So we went over to Lizzie Borden. Of course, we had to include the Amityville Horror House. Once again, we talked about a little bit about the DeFeo, Butch DeFeo, who before the Lutzes, George and Kathy owned or bought the Amityville house. Butch DeFeo took the lives of 6 or 8 of his family members. I believe it was 6. And to me, that part has always been more interesting than the haunting part, because it's pretty much been debunked as a scam. The Lutzes came out and admitted they were in cahoots with Jay Anson, who wrote the book. And then the movie was made based on the book. Of course, the Warrens and Lorraine Warren were involved in, I don't know if they were involved in what I call a scam, but they did come in and investigate it and supposedly found things, of course. But it's an interesting story nonetheless. And I think both Kathy and George Lutz, I think we were talking about it last night, I think they both have passed away. Now I don't know about their children. I think they had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And I think maybe the brother, their son, or maybe it was some of them were stepchildren. But I think one of the boys, I think I remember reading an interview with him, and he was one that actually said, things were over dramatized, he said, but he said that there were some strange things that he did see or observe in the house that he didn't go so far as to call it paranormal, but he said there's some things that happened that he could find no logical explanation for. So interesting nonetheless. So I think I pretty much explained what everything that was on the slide there. Once again, the homicides of the DeFeo family happened in 1974. Ronald Jr., who's also known as Butch. So a year after the DeFeo homicides is when the Lutz family moved in and started reporting the severe paranormal activity. I think they only stayed, a week or 8 days, and then they were out of there. They didn't take anything with them when they left, supposedly. And it says there is debate on the veracity of the Lutz's claims. So we talked about that. We talked about the Lemp Mansion in New Orleans. We talked about Madame Delphine Lalaurie, the absolutely horrible things that she did. And there was one season of American Horror Story. I don't know if it was Coven or another one. Kathy Bates played Madame Lalaurie. She was excellent in that. I'm trying to figure if that was Coven or if it's another one. I get my seasons mixed up. It's been so long since I watched the first 9 seasons. Sometimes I get them mixed up, but it's a very, once again, it's interesting, but it's horrible and horrifying, the things that she did, all at the same time. And the original, they did mention that the original, what they call mansion, which is pictured on the slide, it was partially burned. I believe it was eventually torn down, and a new building was built there. So the original, what they call mansion, is not there anymore. So I think we made it through Waverly Hills last night, if I'm correct. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, which is in Louisville, Kentucky. It was built in 1926 to treat tuberculosis patients. There were hundreds of deaths there. And we talked about the body shoot, which to me is the creepiest part of it. Once again, we talked about last night. I watch a lot of the ghost hunting shows. And most every ghost hunting show that you can think of that's on TV now or used to be have been to Waverly Hills, and they all go investigate the body chute. And it's just creepy because it was originally supposed to be used for like a trash chute or to move in and out supplies. But when you had all these hundreds of people passing away from TB, they didn't want to take the bodies out in view of the other patients that were there that were still alive. So they started using the chute to take them out. And so that's why they started calling it the body chute. But it's very, very creepy. So paranormal phenomena reported as of nowadays includes disembodied voices, shadow figures, feelings of an ominous presence, the normal, the usual suspects in these haunted places. All right, so we covered Waverly Hills. Yeah, because the next one would be, sorry, pushing buttons, watch out. So before we start in on the next one, let me get caught up in comments again right quick, and we will start on the next one and get through these. Let's see, there's, okay. Junior says he didn't want to stay at any haunted houses. Now, I've not stayed at a haunted house per se, although I would swear up and down when I was a little kid and we stayed next door when my grandparents were alive, because, out here on the farm, my grandparents lived next door to us. I would swear that their house was haunted because it was the house is still standing. My uncle lives in it now, but it's probably 100, 150 years old. 2-story old wooden house. Very creepy. And I would swear that it was haunted because we spent the night there a lot over there when we were kids with my grandparents, and I'd swear I would hear noises and all manner of things. Chris says, you conditioned yourself to stay up all night. Why would you do that? I think sometimes, I don't know, maybe because I worked 15 years, or not 15 years. When I worked at Walmart, the first 3.5 years I worked at Walmart, I did the overnight shift. So it took me, and when I went to day shift, it took me forever to get back into because once you work, anybody who's worked overnight, third shift, overnight shift, or whatever you want to call it, it takes you a long time to get used to sleeping like normal people, not sleeping all day and being up all night. It took me probably a year, no exaggeration, a year or more, a year and a half or so to get fully back to where I could sleep at night again, and not stay up all night. Stormy says she would stay in a haunted house. Now I have stayed in a haunted hotel. We talked about it last night. The Crescent Hotel here in Arkansas. It's up in Eureka Springs. That was my 40th birthday present. We stayed one night at the Crescent Hotel and one night at the Basin Hotel, which are both supposedly haunted. We did the ghost tours for both of them, but I really like the Crescent. The Crescent, I think I have a picture if I didn't delete it. This is the outside view of the Crescent Hotel. It's a beautiful, beautiful hotel. Sitting up on a hill. Loved it, loved it. I want to go back someday. Go back and stay there again someday. The Basin was nice, and the ghost tour was nice, but to me the Crescent was the best. Chris says Stormy is not weird. Nope. And weird does not necessarily have to mean bad or have to mean abnormal. This is true. I can attest to that. Junior says going to Walmart is scary enough. Yeah, try working there for 15 years. Oh, there's some things that you cannot unsee at Walmart. I can tell you that much. Anyway, yes, I do too. I love Kathy Bates. We talked about that last night. First thing I saw her in was Misery, which I love that movie. I love any movie based on the Stephen King novels. Some are better than others. The Stand is my favorite. Probably my favorite book, regardless of genre, because I read horror and I read true crime fiction. And The Stand is probably my number one favorite book of all time. And it's a big, thick book. And I've read it probably 2 or 3 times all the way through. And then sometimes I'll go back and read certain parts of it. And the original miniseries they did of The Stand was fantastic. I did have I don't know if they put it out on DVD or VHS, but now I have it on, I have Vudu, the streaming app Vudu, and you can either rent or buy movies. So whenever there's movies or TV shows go on sale, they mostly have movies. I will buy it, and I actually bought The Stand for I think it was $1.99, and it's like, can't remember how many hours it was. It was when it originally aired back in, I think it was in the 90s. They showed it on just regular network TV, and I've watched it so many times I can't keep count of it. But anyway, also love Kathy Bates. She was in Titanic. She played Molly Brown in Titanic. I know I'm missing some things. Now she has the new TV show, the reboot of the Matlock TV show. So yeah, I've always been a big fan of Kathy Bates. And Mustang says it was Covenant. So Covenant was the one that had Madame LaLaurie. Okay. All right. Excellent. Covenant, Kevin. Yeah. Thank you. Ooh, I'm going to have to watch that. Stormy says she just posted a short today of an abandoned hospital that she explored. I love abandoned, like the sanatoriums, lunatic asylums, whatever you want to call them, abandoned hospitals, any kind of abandoned old buildings. I would love to explore. Fortunately, where I live, there's not a whole lot of abandoned places, I'm sure here in Arkansas, probably, because I live in central Arkansas, there's probably a lot of places here in Arkansas that I can explore. Yeah, I think that's it. Junior says in the winter I get tired earlier. I think it's because of less daylight. Yep. I know when the time changes, it'll be getting dark at like 5 o'clock here, and I usually stay out working, depending on how busy we are, because doing Spark, how busy it is. I might stay out during the summer, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, because I'm not going to be out after dark, delivering groceries by myself. For one, I can't see to drive after dark anymore because I'm old. And I just don't want to be doing that by myself, you know. Uh, oh, I bet it was. Stormy said it was really cool. Um, I agree. Mark says, I would never stay at a haunted house because I believe ghosts are demons. I believe some ghosts, yep. I believe some are demons or demonic. Um, absolutely. Stormy likes misery, apparently. Yep. Love it. Mustang does not like Walmart. I'm not that fond of Walmart, although that's where we do most of our shopping because it's just convenient. It's close. I mean, you know, there's not a lot of choices in the area where I live. So, what place will that be? Chris says there's one place that I would never stay at, regardless of the fact that it keeps turning up bodies. Where is that at, Chris? Um, yes, definitely. Mustang says the Cecil Hotel is where I'd be scared to stay. Yep. I think when we were, it wasn't last night, but when we did the how true crime influences pop culture, I think we talked about the Cecil Hotel. Yep, very because Richard Ramirez was known to stay there. Lots of weird, bad things happened at the Cecil Hotel. So yeah, yeah, I don't think I would stay there. Stormy says she does as much urban exploring as she can. I would love to do that. Fox Farms in Indiana. I might have to look that up. Remind me so I won't forget, and I will look that up. Mm, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. Mustang says Oklahoma has a state hospital in Veneta that is abandoned. We went exploring years ago. I will look. I mean, can you just imagine the things that happened in, especially back in the day, the older state hospitals, the things that happened there? I just can't imagine. But I would love to explore it. And we have. Do they even have state what we call state hospitals anymore, or does like the regular hospitals? I know that they have mental health wards, parts of the regular hospitals. Now, we used to have, they called it the Arkansas State Hospital, which is basically the mental hospital. I don't know if it's still open or not. I think I talked about that the other night. But I don't think there's as many what we would think of now, kind of like the Waverly Hills Sanatorium is just specifically for people with mental health problems. Oh my goodness. Junior says, my grandma told me she saw a headless man walk through a gate when she was living in Kentucky. She used to mention it often and swears it's true. Wow. That would freak me out. Stormy says she thinks it was a military hospital. Um, yep, absolutely. Mark says Alyssa Lamb. That's where Alyssa Lamb died, was at the Cecil Hotel. That's still, we've talked about the Alyssa Lamb case. We might have talked about it in when we were talking about the true crime pop culture link. Because I know we talked about the Cecil Hotel. Mustang says, isn't Herb Baumgardner, can't spell his last name, took the lives of those boys and young men. Now there's a Herb, was it Herb Baumeister? There was a Herb Baum something in Alaska. But he took the lives of a lot of women, young women. Now there may be another Herb, but I think it was like Herb Baumeister or something. I believe it was in Alaska, because I think when we covered Anchorage, or maybe when we were doing featuring cases from just the whole state of Alaska, uh, he was a suspect in some of those cold missing persons cases that we talked about. Mustang says they closed most of the state hospitals, I believe. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'll have to check and see if the Arkansas State Hospital is still open, or if it's just what I call the regular, medical hospitals that just have the mental health wards. Yeah, talking about Alyssa Lamb, Stormy says, I don't think she put herself in those water tanks. Yeah, see, that's always been the big sticking point for people, is why, how and why. If she did it herself, why? Which Alyssa Lamb was known to have mental health problems. I forget what they said she had. Was it maybe schizophrenia or something? So it's possible that she got in there by herself, but then again, I've watched a lot of things on her case. And to climb, I mean, there is a ladder you can climb up, but they were talking about how hard it would be, or is, to open the top of the tank to get in there. So yeah, I'm 50, 50-50 on that. I'm still not sure. Obviously, we'll never be sure. I wasn't there, but I go back and forth about did she do it herself because of her mental health problems? Did somebody else do it? Yeah. So I go back and forth on that one. Are you talking about the Herb Baumeister or Baumgartner, whichever it is? It might be two different people, but I remember the Herb from, I believe, Alaska. Did he? Am I thinking the wrong person? Chris says he took the lives of men. Interesting. Let me see. Let me make sure my my article loaded. Yay! Which it might not be the one that I was going to read from. Hold on. Let me see if this one will come up. I'm gonna try to because I got Wikipedia information, and then I've got I did find articles on most of these. Yes, I remember. Mark says, and didn't he bury some of the bones on his farm? Yes. Maybe I'm thinking. Maybe I've got my herbs confused, or I got my herbs confused. My herbs confused. But yeah, there was one that I'm thinking Alaska for some reason. We'll have to look it up. Mustang says, yeah, he scattered the bones all over the property. Okay, thank you. So I must be confused, because Stormy says Herb Baumeister is from Indiana, I think. I'm going to have to look this up, and not that I don't believe you. Okay, Mustang says Alaska was Hanson or Henson. Hold on. Let me do 1 second, because I know I've looked up Herb Baumeister. Just see what pops up. Oh yeah, that's the face. So we'll just go with what popped up. Wikipedia popped up. And then we'll get back into our haunted locations here. Well, hopefully it'll pop up. We'll give it a minute. Come on. Come on. Load. Robert Hanson. So Hanson was the one from Alaska. Man, it's not wanting to load. Usually Wikipedia loads really quick. Oh goodness, I've got 20 tabs open now. What is going on? Yes, Fox Hollow Farms. Okay, so Herb Baumeister Was an American businessman, a suspected serial offender, believed to have taken the lives of over a dozen men in the early to mid 1990s, primarily targeting young gay men at bars in central Indiana. Yes, y'all were correct. I was wrong. His crimes are linked to the Fox Hollow Farms, where investigators found remains on his property, leading to suspicions that he was one of Indiana's most prolific serial offenders. Ballmeister's methods included luring victims to his farm, where he allegedly took their lives and buried them. He passed away in 1996, and his case remains a significant part of Indiana's criminal history, as if Indiana needs any more. So you guys are right. Now let me look up, what was the other name? Robert Hansen, maybe that the one from Alaska. Let me look that one up, and because I know there was one from Alaska. Well, I say I know. Robert Hansen, American serial offender. Let me see if his Wikipedia will come up. So he was the one known as the Butcher Baker, this Robert Hansen. Once again, I don't know if the says he was born in Iowa, but I think he ended up in Alaska. Once again, I'm trying to see if anything will load. Let me get into your comments. Oh, which victims are you talking about? Sleuthy said in August of this year, a nonprofit is going to work on identifying the victims. Yes, thank you. Mustang said, yeah, the Butcher Baker was Hansen. Yeah, at least 17 bodies. Which one owned the Save-A-Lots? Stormy said she was very interested in this case. 10 have been identified. Mustang says, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more than 17. Mark says, Herb owned a chain of retail stores and was rich. Okay, so the victims, they're trying to identify the victims of Baumeister. Great. And Herb owned Save-A-Lots. Okay. Still trying to get this. Okay, so Robert Hansen's information came up. Robert Hansen, also known as the Butcher Baker, was an American serial offender active in Anchorage, Alaska. Okay, so he was the one I was thinking about from Alaska. Thank you, guys. That's why I need you guys to help keep me straight on my serial offenders. Yeah, so he was known as the Butcher Baker. He was an American serial offender active in Anchorage, Alaska between 1972, 1983. Abducting, essaying, and taking the lives of at least 17 women. Many of his victims were released by Hansen into the wilderness, so that's why I remembered, and he hunted them with the firearm and knives. He was captured in 1983. He was sentenced to 461 years imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He passed away in 2014 of natural causes. Right, so I got my serial offenders straight now. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I was confused there for a moment, which is anybody who knows me, that is not unusual for me to be confused about something at any given time. Junior says, I've listened to a few podcasts about the guy in Indiana. So that was Baumeister, right? His wife swore she knew nothing about his crimes, but she had seen bones in the back of the house. Yeah, I think and we always go, and the same thing has been said about a lot of Because a lot of serial killers were married, did have families, and everybody says, how could they, not even just have maybe an inkling of was something that was going on. It's possible, but then again, yeah, if I was seeing bones in the house that I didn't think were maybe animal bones, I think I would have a few questions. I would have a few questions. Oh, I have not watched that. I'll have to. Stormy says The Frozen Ground is a really good movie about the butcher baker with Nick Cage and John Cusack. I'm definitely going to have to look that up because for one, it's based on true crime. For two, I like Nicolas Cage. I love John Cusack. So I'll have to hopefully it's on a streaming service that I get. I'll have to watch it. Mark says supposedly Herb attacked Ben when his wife was out of town, and I think that's what they said. We could liken that to what's his name? Long Island dude. Once again, his name was that supposedly that's when he did all his dirty deeds, was when, because she traveled, she was from another country. Once again, I can't think. And when she would go visit her family, her and the kids would go visit her family, is when he would do his bad things. Who are you talking about? You talking about Herb? Mustang says his son found a complete skeleton. Yeah, I would definitely have questions finding a complete skeleton. Because if it was complete, you would definitely know that it was human. Mustang says she's seen the Frozen Ground movie. I'm gonna have to. Stormy says she loves both of them too, especially Nick Cage. Yep. Thank you, Rex Heerman. Thank you, Mustang. I could not think of his name. Junior says he told her it was from an old graveyard. But I would still have questions then of why are you bringing bones from an old graveyard into the house? I would question that. I would question that. Most definitely. Okay. Once again, I loaded the wrong article for the Eastern State Penitentiary, which is what we are going to be talking about next. Let me get it loading. Hopefully it will not take long to load. I'm not going to hold my breath though. Come on, I want the other article. Maybe I might have to close it down and start a new tab. Stormy says she can't wait for Rex Heerman's trial. Yeah. Let's hope it didn't turn into a Koberger deal where they take a plea and nobody gets any answers. Yeah, Junior says Rex's wife had to suspect something. I agree. I agree with that. All right, let me see if I can get this to load. Oh, goodness. Stormy agrees. Everybody agrees about good old Rexy there. Almost said sexy Rexy. He's definitely that way. He's definitely not sexy, but I love the movie Empire Records. They have they have a singer that comes into the does an in-store appearance at the record store. Rex something. They call him sexy. One of the girls that worked there called him sexy Rexy. Yes. Stormy says I'll be mad if there's a plea with no answers. I know. I still can't get over that with Koberger. That they didn't at least make him give some kind of information, make him allocute something. Yes, he's definitely Heerman is definitely an ogre. Oh, well, there it is. An ogre. Yeah, Junior said, or yeah, the Gilgo Beach trial won't be televised. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to release audio, or at least release the audio from it at the very least. Oh, come on! The article that I wanted to load is not loading. Because the article from, I think it's from grunge.com, actually has more about the hauntings. Oh, there it goes. It loaded. Okay, so since it finally loaded, oh, I didn't advance the slide? No. So this is Eastern State Penitentiary. It's in Philadelphia. It was once one of the most famous prisons in the U.S. Eastern states, is known for its brutal punishment, solitary confinement. Its history of self-harm and homicides has led to it being considered one of the most haunted places in the world. So this article is from usghostadventures.com. How is an innovative correctional facility responsible for introducing new concepts for social change, now known as the most haunted prison in America? While it is no longer used to house inmates, Eastern State Penitentiary remains one of the most talked about historic sites in the state of Pennsylvania, but it is not because of positive reform or improving the lives of prisoners. While the prison may have started out with good intentions, the many years of riots, inhumane torture, and homicide on the premises have cast a dark shadow over the 19th century prison that remains there today. So curious visitors travel from miles away to visit this historic location, known for being a hub of otherworldly activity. There is no doubt that Eastern State Penitentiary was once filled with great sadness, loneliness, and despair, being home to more than 85,000 prisoners while it was operational. And those dark, despairing emotions can cause dark entities to cling to places where they do not belong. As we take a deeper dive into the disturbing history behind America's first penitentiary, the reason why Eastern State is home to so many ghosts and spirits becomes clear. These troubled energies feel right at home within the walls of this torturous prison. So a little bit of history. I can't talk. Eastern State Penitentiary opened in 1829 as a prison. Once again, it was intended to create social change and reform. The building was designed and constructed by British architect John Haviland, and it was the most expensive structure built in the country at that time. Thanks to its elaborate floor plan and cell block design, it was considered an architectural wonder and visited by notable individuals such as a name I can't pronounce, Alexis de Tocqueville, and Charles Dickens even. Interesting. So following his visit to the prison in 1942, Charles Dickens wrote about the horrifying system, saying, quote, "The system there is rigid, strict, and hopeless solitary confinement, tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any torture of the body." That is true. So during the 18th century in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of debate over how prisons did handle punishment for the inmates. In 1790, the Pennsylvania Prison Society, or PPS, was founded in response to the violent and brutal system of corporal punishment used throughout the country. The members of PPS recommended new measures for social reform, such as prisoner anonymity and solitary confinement. To me, now, God forbid if I ever went to prison for something, which I'm hoping not to, don't plan on doing anything to go to prison for, but to me, the solitary confinement will be the worst, because I cannot stand to be solely by myself, locked in like a little room in total darkness, and just I would go batty, even battier than I already am. So Eastern State was designed to keep prisoners separated from one another as part of this new system. The prisoners faced strict rules and regulations. They were forced to reflect on their mistakes by spending their days and nights in silence. See, I cannot stand total silence. I have to have some kind of the TV going, at least just even just barely enough to hear it. I sleep with my TV on all night long. I turn it down to where I can barely hear it. Or I have to have a radio going, some kind of noise going wherever I am. So Benjamin Rush, who is a member of the PPS, based the new prison reform policies on the ideas of John Howard. He was some kind of English philanthropist. Howard advocated for policies such as solitary confinement and productive labor as forms of criminal punishment. He believed that all prisoners should be in separate cells in a place of solitude and silence, allowing them to reflect on their crimes in the hope of leading to repentance. He instructed that the separate rooms should have their own small courtyard that would help eliminate the ability for prisoners to come together and discuss plans to escape. At least they had a courtyard, a private courtyard. This new practice was criticized by many in the U.S. for its reliance on extreme isolation. However, it was also adopted by more than 300 prisons throughout the world. This new system of incarceration was commonly referred to as the Pennsylvania system. So unfortunately, the practice did not remain in accordance with its original progressive and humane values. Later, the prison incorporated punishment that was more in line with the system that the PPS had tried so hard to move away from. So now we get to the hauntings. So there are many reasons why so many dark entities are drawn to this historic prison. Spirits are more likely to cling to places where tragic death and torture once occurred. And at Eastern State Penitentiary, there was no shortage of torture while the prison was operational. The harsh realities faced by so many of the prisoners would be enough to cause any spirit to seek vengeance in the afterlife. And I think, because I think it was Mark that mentioned earlier that he believes that ghosts are demonic, and I believe that some ghosts, maybe not all spirits, are demonic, but I think it is the demonic ones that would cling to places such as Eastern State Penitentiary, like I said, because they're drawn to the tragic, the deaths, the torture, the evilness that went on. So I agree with him in that aspect, absolutely. So facing as many as 23 hours a day in isolation was believed to have driven the prisoners mad, putting them in a worse mental state than they were in before they arrived. They were even deprived of talking to the guards, causing many to end up deliriously talking to themselves. I talk to myself. Does that mean I'm crazy? Obviously, I'm crazy, but I talk to myself. I answer myself. I argue with myself. I usually lose when I argue with myself. So they ended up talking to themselves and facing harsh punishment as a result. So apparently they were punished for talking to themselves. The painful misery created by the isolation and torture can still be felt within the prison walls. But why is this prison considered to be one of the most haunted places in America? The answer could lie in the different forms of torture that guards use to punish the prisoners. So some of the forms, they have the water bath. I don't know if that is anything close to what waterboarding. I've heard of waterboarding. I don't know if it's the same thing. One brutal form of punishment carried out at Eastern State was known as the ice bath or water bath. So that's different. I don't know. An ice bath does not sound very good. Guards would throw ice cold water on prisoners as they sat in a chair before chaining them to an exterior wall of the prison during the wintertime. Yeah, that is brutal. That would be brutal. And they would remain there until all the moisture on their skin turned to ice. Oh my goodness. Do y'all remember back when the C word was going on, the pandemic? I think that's when the ice bucket challenge was going around during that time. And I remember we did all of us did the ice bucket challenge, and I couldn't. That was, and this was I think in the middle of summertime. That was bad enough, and all that was cold water. I can imagine just having ice water put on you and then put outside in the wintertime, and the water freezing on your skin. They also had what they called the mad chair. For this torture device, the prisoners would be tightly strapped to a restraining chair for hours or even days, resulting in painful swelling in their limbs. That painful swelling in their limbs that had turned blue or black from the lack of circulation. In a similar form of torture is also very common at Eastern State for prisoners to be placed in a straitjacket until they started losing circulation throughout their bodies. They had the hole, also known as Klondike. This area deep below cell block 14 had a 6-foot ceiling and 4 small isolated cells. These cell blocks were made from reinforced concrete instead of stone. They were very square, windowless, and without any light or plumbing. See, that's what I would not be able to handle. This form of isolation was not intended to encourage redemption, but strictly to serve as punishment. The most vicious criminals at the prison were placed in what they called the hole, which was what I consider solitary confinement, for days or even months at a time for bad behavior. So they had what they called the iron gag. The most common, most harrowing form of punishment at the penitentiary was the iron gag. For this torture, the prisoner would have their hands crossed behind their neck. The iron gag device will be placed on their tongue with chains connecting it to their hands. Oh my gosh. Any movement the prisoner would make using their hands would pull and tear at their tongue, resulting in excruciating pain. Wow. So some notable inmates that stayed at Eastern State Penitentiary, Al Capone. It says Eastern State Penitentiary was home to some of the most notorious criminals in the U.S. Al Capone, the most famous mob boss from Chicago, and the American Mafia history, I'm very interested in that also. The most famous mob boss from Chicago, Al Capone spent 8 months at Eastern State Penitentiary between 1929 and 1930. He was arrested for carrying a concealed and deadly weapon. This will be Capone's first prison sentence, and one that continued to haunt him for years after he was released. I bet they didn't do torture on Capone. I don't know. I'm thinking, even though all these horrible things that they did at this penitentiary, I bet Capone got special treatment, if I was to guess. So they also have the ghost of Jimmy Clark. The Valentine's Day Massacre is one of the most well-known crime stories that Al Capone is linked to. And when several men employed by gangster Bugs Moran were working at Moran's bootlegging headquarters, authorities soon arrived on the scene. Moran's men feared that they were about to be arrested, but instead 7 of them were shot and killed. Because it turns out that the police were not police. They were actually gangsters in disguise that Capone sent. Capone was never convicted of these homicides, but most people who are familiar with the story believe that he was the one that ordered Moran's men to be killed, since they were arch rivals. That's what I've always believed too, from everything that I've read. So one of the men that was killed that day was Jimmy Clark. He was a low-ranking mobster and the brother-in-law of Bugs Moran. And during Capone's stay at Eastern State, it is believed that that Capone was actually haunted by Jimmy's ghost. Interesting. It says Capone was convinced that someone was sharing his one-bed cell with him. They said he would shout out in the middle of the night, begging Jimmy to leave him alone. Other prisoners mentioned hearing him screaming and even having quiet conversations with someone. See, now I don't know, because I do know that Capone was eventually the thing that actually got Capone on, if you're interested in mafia history, was tax evasion. They couldn't get him on anything else, any homicides or any racketeering. I think there was Capone was before the RICO. I can't remember exactly what year the RICO was established, but he had contracted syphilis, and apparently syphilis drove him mad. So So I don't know if when he was in Eastern State, if that was driving him mad, if he had contracted that before or after, or if he was being haunted by Jimmy. So Al hoped that once he was released from Eastern State that he would be free from the haunting of Jimmy Clark, but wherever Capone was, Jimmy would follow. Eventually, Al requested help from a psychic to get Jimmy's spirit to leave for good. I don't know. Maybe Jimmy was haunting him, or maybe Al was, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. The psychic didn't help. Capone's fear of the ghost became such an issue that his bodyguards would rush into his room at night, convinced that he was under attack by somebody, only to find out that Al was all alone in his room, terrified. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe, like I said, I've got to brush up on my Al Capone history, but maybe this was when from the disease he had was setting in and starting to drive him a little batty. I don't know. So Capone was later sent to Alcatraz for tax evasion, and the ghost of Jimmy apparently accompanied him on that sentence as well. At this point in his life, Al had contracted syphilis, and during his time at Alcatraz, the disease spread to his brain, causing him to lose his mind, or so everyone says. That's always the story that I've heard or read. His behavior became so bizarre, screaming. He was constantly screaming at Jimmy, the ghost, that he was released from prison on good behavior. He ended up going back to his home and dying peacefully, or maybe not so peacefully at home. So he did pass away at his estate in Palm Island in 1947. There were many who say that the spirit of Jimmy was by Capone's side, even when he passed away, as he was passing away, ensuring that vengeance for his homicide was carried out to Capone's last breath. So that's why I said earlier, if you're not necessarily interested in the paranormal side of things, I love it when I love the history of it, the history of places like this. So there's also Slick Willie Sutton. Slick Willie, also known as the actor, he was a notorious bank robber who had a peculiar reputation for a criminal as being a gentleman. People who were present at his robberies have even stated that he was a very polite man. But in reality, he was a merciless criminal who only cared about one thing: getting his hands on as much money as possible. Sutton was apprehended in February of 1934. He was sentenced to serve 25 to 50 years at Eastern State for the machine gun robbery held at the Corn Exchange Bank, a bank and trust company in Philadelphia. So on April 3rd of 1945, Sutton and 11 other convicts, I can't talk, escaped the penitentiary using a tunnel. He was captured the same day by the Philadelphia police, and this was his 5th escape attempt at the prison. So we have Victor Babe Andreoli. Victor was convicted of taking the life of a Pennsylvania state police officer in 1937. He was arrested and given a life sentence at Eastern State for first-degree homicide. Following several robberies in 1937, Andreoli and his companion Horace Bowers stole a car. They drove to Bear Creek Township in the Wilkes-Barre, however you pronounce it, area of Pennsylvania. State Trooper Private John Brost was in town investigating a homicide. He was at the Boulevard Inn talking to a witness when Andreoli and Bowers arrived. So Bowers was armed with a shotgun, while Andreoli had a nickel-plated pistol. They ordered the people at the bar to, put their hands up as they entered the room. As Broski did, he tried to get a better look at the two gunmen who were behind him. And that's when Bowers, unfortunately, shot the state trooper with the shotgun from a close distance. So Bowers went on to hold another patron at gunpoint, stole the wallet, While Andreoli robbed the cash register, they fled the scene. Brodsky was taken to the nearby emergency room where he passed away the following day. Andreoli was placed in solitary confinement for bad behavior. He escaped from prison in October of 1943 by hiding in a delivery truck. Several weeks later, he was caught in Chester, Pennsylvania, where he was GSW'd in a crowded diner, stating that he would never be taken alive. You'll never take me alive. So we have Frida Frost, a female. So between the years of 1831 and 1923, more than 900 women served time in eastern states. So this was less than 3% of the estimated population of the prison at the time, but still the women made a substantial impact on the institution. One of them was Frida Frost. Frida was convicted of taking the life of her husband by poisoning him. She was serving a 20-year sentence at the prison. According to the story, she took the life of her husband just a week after marrying him to collect his money and life insurance payment. So she only waited a week. She was 40 years old at the time of her arrest. Frida was the last female prisoner at the penitentiary. She was transferred to the Muncie Industrial Home for Women in 1923 when officials began segregating the prison. And it says that her departure from Eastern State was the end of an era. So we have a few ghostly encounters at Eastern State. It says, deep within the dark areas of Eastern State, you will find something that isn't quite human anymore. There is a certain obscurity that awaits those who dare to visit the penitentiary. The souls of those who were tortured that are now there are now stuck there for eternity, seeking revenge on those who made their last days on earth miserable and unbearable. There are many haunting tales from those who visit the location today about seeing apparitions or hearing strange voices. It's been commonly reported over the years that you can see a figure standing in one of the old guard towers. Some believe it is the spirit of a former guard who feels that it is still his responsibility to stand watch over the prison walls, even though it's not been operational for years and years and years. There is one particular spirit who's been seen lurking through the older sections of the prison by visitors. It is the shadow of a man who seems to be looking for a way out, which would make sense. So they talk about the haunted cell blocks. What are some of the most haunted places inside the penitentiary? Several of the cell blocks where prisoners spent many lonely days and nights are the most unsettling places to enter, even decades after the prison was closed for good. So you have cell block 12 is one haunted site on the premises that is often brought up by haunting experts. In other words, the ghost hunters that go in and examine. That's not the word I'm looking for. There have been multiple reports from people hearing echoing voices, strange cackling in the darkness, and seeing apparitions or shadowy figures. Others have claimed to hear the disembodied voices, creepy whispers, an overwhelming feeling of dread. It is a popular spot for curious investigators to visit while touring the penitentiary. Some videos captured there have shown the apparition of a man walking through the cell block. And I think I was watching what I consider the original, the first ghost hunting show I ever watched was Ghost Hunters, which is TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society. I think they did supposedly caught video of this shadowy, apparition walking through the cell block. It is very creepy, very creepy. Don't know if it's real or not, but if it's just a trick of the eyes or the imagination, but it's very creepy. Then you have cell block 4. Those who visit cell block 4 have claimed to see chilling visions of ghostly faces that appear to be deeply tormented. Some have said these faces beckon them over to get a closer look. If a ghostly apparition beckons me over, I'm not going any closer. Along with the macabre images, people have also reported hearing more strange noises, as well as feeling a sense of unease, being unwelcome. One of the most frequently shared tales about this haunted cell block is the encounter experienced by locksmith Gary Johnson. So apparently, Mr. Johnson was hired to renovate part of the cell block and replace all of the locks. While removing one of the locks, he suddenly felt overpowered by an unseen force. He could feel the presence of someone watching him, and that I'm not attributing it to ghosts, but I always, or not always, but sometimes, and it's probably happened to all of us at one time or another, just have this feeling that somebody's watching you. To me, that's the creepiest thing in the world. Or I'm also, it may just be my craziness, but living out here on the farm, we usually keep our curtains open. I mean, for the most part, and I'm just always afraid, especially at night, and I'm going to look up out the window and see somebody looking in at me. Just one of my fears, one of my phobias, I guess. Anyway, I lost my place. So Mr. Johnson was hired to change the locks. He had this feeling that somebody was watching him. However, when he looked up and down the cell block, there was no one else there. He stated that he could feel the negative energy pouring out of the cell as he saw distorted faces and agonizing pain lining up on the walls. It has also been said that they saw a shadowy figure leap out from him across the cell block. See, this thing about shadow figures, because that's a big thing in ghost hunting too, is the shadow figures. To me, that creeps me out. And very few things actually creep me out, but that things like that do. So we have cell block 6 is the last one they mentioned. It's been said that if you enter cell block 6 at Eastern State, you will see shadowy figures dart along the walls or slide quickly across them. So if I ever go there, I will not be visiting cell block 6. The spirits appear as haunting black silhouettes. However, they're not confined to that area. They have been seen making their way along the walls throughout the penitentiary. Throughout all the most haunted cell blocks, visitors have felt a great darkness that they can't explain. People have mentioned, once again, hearing the voices, feeling cold spots. That's another thing. And you feel these cold spots in certain areas, and even the feeling of being touched or scratched by a dark entity. So Eastern State today. Eastern State Penitentiary closed its doors in 1971, the year I was born. Many of the prisoners and the guards who were there at the time were transferred to Graterford Prison, which is located 30 miles north of Philadelphia. As the last of the employees left the prison, no one was expecting the building to be used again for anything. The property was abandoned for the next 20 years. As historians, city planners, and real estate developers started looking into what could be done with the property in the 1980s, they revisited the prison only to find it had become overrun with vines growing on both outside and inside. There was also a colony, apparently, of feral cats that lived inside, and an eerie feeling that time had come to a standstill within the walls of the former prison. So the property was purchased by a nonprofit organization. They renovated the building. They reopened it as a museum and tourist attraction in 1994. Today, Eastern State Penitentiary has been designated as a National Historical Landmark. The building is open to the public for daytime tours every day except for Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. So that is the Eastern State Penitentiary. I don't know. I would go. I think I would go on a tour of it. Most definitely, I would go on a tour of it. Just to get scared. Just to get scared. And like I said, I'll just love the history of places like that. All right, let me get caught up. See who's come in while I was reading. And get me a drink and get caught up in your comments quickly. Gotta find the. Okay, I think I went down too far. I thought I marked. I probably forgot to mark where I left off at. Um, hold on. Mustang said they're dragging that case out. Are you talking about the Human case? Oh, I've already read those. Okay. Okay, so Junior said the Gilgo Beach trial won't be televised. Yeah. I don't know why they don't televised. I mean, back in the day, and when I say back in the day, back when I was a teenager, young adult, back in the 80s, 90s, you had to go, was it Court TV? I mean, they televised all the big trials. I remember watching the Menendez trial. What are some other big ones that were back then, back in the 80s? The OJ's trial. I remember they, and even before, after the homicides and then before the trial and before everything, the slow speed Bronco chase, they showed that live on network TV. And now they don't show anything anymore, any trials, anything. Of especially the high profile cases that most people are, a lot of people are interested in. But I thought it was, I don't know. I think I've asked this question before. I think we discussed it before. I guess it's state by state. I always thought that they had to televise it, or at the very least release the audio from it. Now, I do not believe. I mean, I do not believe in releasing like the crime scene photos, autopsy photos. I mean, at least for me, in my opinion, I would definitely not be interested. I don't want to see all that. Just for out of respect for the victims and the victims' families. But I mean, to me, I don't see a problem. Once again, just my opinion of releasing the audio. I mean, because you're not showing anybody's faces, such as witnesses or whatever, But I don't know. That's just my opinion. But feel free to let me know in chat or in comments if you're watching replay. Oh, Junior's got lots of ghost stories. I love it. Junior says, I painted a funeral home and had to do it at night when it was closed. It was kind of spooky. The owner told me, you don't have to worry about these people. It's the ones outside you need to worry about. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, Mark asked Junior if did anything weird happen? I saw a shadow person once. See, the shadow people get me. That would creep me out to no end. And Mark says, I saw a shadow person once. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had. It was scary and fascinating at the same time. See, it's kind of like I don't know, I kind of liken it, wanting to see something, but not wanting to see something, kind of like a bad wreck or something, you can't look away, I don't know. I agree. Chris said that he thinks the Clutter house would be haunted. Yep, I agree. We're having to talk about. I think we've talked about that before, brief, or maybe mentioned it. Junior says he had a couple of people helping, nothing happened, but it was still weird. So why were you having to paint it at night? I guess maybe not to disturb the people coming in and out during the daytime. Yeah, Mark says that's good. Nothing happened, but I get it. It would be definitely be weird. Yeah. Mark says, what horrible torture. Yeah. Eastern State was horrible with the inhumane treatment. Inhumane treatment of the prisoners. Uh-oh. Look who's in the house. Hello, Mr. Steve. Mr. Steve is in the house. How are you doing, sir? Good to see you. He says, hello, everyone. What's this torture we speak of? We are speaking of the Eastern State Penitentiary. Welcome, Mr. Steve. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're getting some rest. I don't know what you're doing at this point in time. We know you can't always divulge where you're at or what you're doing, but yes, this is a part 2 of the Halloween marathon that we started last night. we went about 4.5 hours last night, and then we said we're going to call it quits for tonight and finish it tonight. So that is what we're doing, among other things. And we've been talking about all manner of serial offenders, and you know how it is. We talk about anything and everything on these kind of live streams. But it's good to have you here, Mr. Steve. Anybody who has not checked out Mr. Steve at True Crime Web, what you've been doing with your life, he is magnificent. He is the national treasure. I'm sure somebody's already probably put the link to his channel in. But it's always good to see Mr. Steve. Always honored to have Mr. Steve here. Mustang says she loves mob history too. Oh, I do too. And we were talking about Hot Springs last night. Hot Springs back in the day, I guess was kind of when I think it was almost where gangsters would go to hide out when it was hot and heavy, when they would be investigated for whatever they would, and it was a place where they would go to hide out, a place where they would go to vacation. Al Capone was there. Lots of Al Capone had his own room at the one hotel that I always forget the name of. Had his own room there, his own motel room or suite there. But yeah, that unfortunately that hotel caught fire. And somebody please remind me of the name of the hotel. I always forget it. I've been by it. In fact, probably the last time we went to Hot Springs was after it caught fire. And it was just, of course, they had a fence and stuff around it. It was just horrible to see it in that condition. I don't think it didn't burn completely to the ground, but it was heavily damaged. It's a very historic hotel. And I don't know what they ever did with it, if they were going to rebuild it or tear it down. I think the last time I heard they were debating or arguing over whether they were going to rebuild it, remodel it, renovate it, or just tear it down. And I can't remember exactly what they did with it. Let's see. Oh, that would be awesome. Junior says, I was locked in Al Capone's cell on Alcatraz. It was a tour and I volunteered. I would volunteer to do that. So you toured Alcatraz? Junior, you're my hero. That would be cool. I've always wanted to go to tour Alcatraz, because they say Alcatraz is haunted, supposedly haunted also. Lots of the ghost hunting shows have I still can't think of the word, have investigated Alcatraz. Yep. Al Capone did contract syphilis. Yep. Stormy says she'd like to explore an abandoned prison. Me too. Mustang says, I want to visit Alcatraz, but I'm afraid they may lock me up and throw away the key. Surely not. Hey, Tech Death Hippie. Good to see you, my friend. Please check out Tech Death Hippie if you're into music, or if you're not into music, but I'm into music. He teaches guitar, big music fan. I'm a big music fan, as I'm sure a lot of us are. I get over to Tech Death's channel as much as I can to he teaches, I believe, teaches guitar. Lots of good stuff over there. So it's good to see you. Are you talking about Alcatraz? Junior says it was a state park or something like that. The tour guide was a park ranger. You're very welcome, Miss Paula. I'm glad y'all finding this interesting. Like I said, I'm just as interested in the historical history of these places as I am the supposed, hauntings and paranormal stuff. Although I find that interesting also. Junior says, I keep my shades closed and doors and windows locked at night. I don't trust anyone. Oh, I don't either. Now during the day, I may not, like I said, even at night, we hardly ever close the curtains. But the door, if I'm here during the day, if, like on the weekends when I'm not working, I'm home, my doors are locked day and night. Yep, Mustang says the same, day and night. Stormy says she would tour it. Hey, Miss Louise. How are you doing, ma'am? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. And man, with Mr. Steve coming in here, I forgot to mention I got the Oklahoma and Tennessee game over on. I'm recording the end of it because I knew I was going to do the live stream. Of course, my Razorbacks lost again today. They managed to snatch a defeat from the jaws of victory as usual, but Georgia won. Georgia won when it came in. When Mr. Steve came in, it reminded me Mrs. Steve is a Georgia Bulldog fan, as I am. Next to my Razorbacks. Georgia won barely. They beat. They were playing Florida, and they only beat them like 24-20. So it's kind of a close call, but I'm glad Georgia won. And right now, oh, they were showing the score a while ago from the Oklahoma and Tennessee game. I forgot who was winning. I'm hoping, although as much as it kills my soul to root for Tennessee, even though both teams are SEC, because Oklahoma is in the SEC now, I just cannot root for Oklahoma. But Oklahoma is winning right now 26-17. 5 minutes to go in the ball game. Anyway, that is my my sports report for the evening. Junior says he does open the blinds in the day, but keeps the doors locked. Yep. So Junior wants to know what a shadow person is. Oh. It's supposedly I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like a spirit that comes back in the form of a shadow. They call them shadow people, shadow persons. You just see them literally as most of them do have the shape of either a person or some kind of a creature, but it's like just a darkness. They call it, like, if it's dark, it's like blacker than black. You can see it in the dark. Either walking or, along the ceiling or along the walls, you can see the reflection or the shadow. Very, very creepy. That's one thing that creeps me out. Whether they're real or not, just the thought of it creeps me out. That's the best explanation I have of a shadow person. But yeah, Mark says most people that are in the paranormal world consider them demonic. Absolutely. Thank you. Mustang has got Mr. Steve's link in. Yep. Mark says, when I saw it, I still believed in the occult. Yep. Oh, I can't do dolls. I can't do dolls. I can't do clowns. Stormy says, I collect vintage dolls, like really old ones that are cracked, missing parts, and I collect vintage photos. I'm pretty sure I brought some spirits home. Yeah, because there is the belief, once again, in the paranormal realm or universe that objects, even like dolls, even pictures, anything spirits can go into these objects. Absolutely. But I cannot do dolls. Dolls creep me out, just like clowns and Mr. Steve's creepy mannequins. His big dolls. Junior says I just bought a guitar. I want to learn to play All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. That's one of my favorite Beatles songs. Talk to Tech Death. He may can teach you. I know he does mostly like rock and roll music, but I'm sure he could teach any kind of music. Yep, I love All You Need Is Love is probably one of my favorite Beatles songs. And I got to see one member of the Beatles. We got to see Paul McCartney when he toured. He came to Little Rock. Awesome concert. Awesome show. No, you do not want to hear me sing it. You heard me. I almost broke out singing the Time Warp last night, trying to remember the lyric, the lyrics to it. I'm not going to be doing any singing. Everybody would leave. They'd be like, nope, I'm out of here. And Mustang says she likes clowns, but not dolls. I don't like clowns or dolls. Yes, I also love Helter Skelter. Yep. Yep, Helter Skelter. That's a good one. All right, I think I'm caught up. Let me get a quick drink, see what we have next. Another lunatic asylum, another one of my favorite ones that I would love to do a tour of, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which is in Weston, West Virginia. Yes, I love Hey Jude. I love Hey Jude. I love Imagine. And I'm not like a Beatles fanatic. Now, my baby sister-in-law that we lost, she was a Beatles fanatic. But I do like the Beatles. But I do love Hey Jude, Imagine, Helter Skelter. All You Need Is Love. Yeah, all good stuff. All right, so let me get see what I have on Trans-Allegheny. Oh, if I can go to the right tab here. And once again, I did try to find all the websites for all these places that do tours. Or if they're like haunted hotels, a lot of times you can actually stay there. They do ghost tours. I did include those in the links. Let's see. I think this is also from usghostadventures.com. Let's see if it will come up. Oh, it came up. Yay. I'm going to get one more drink before I lose my voice again. Okay. Did I remember to advance the slide? Yes, I did. Okay. So once again, this is from the website usghostadventures.com, the terrors of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. So tucked away in the Appalachian Mountains is the small town of Weston. Looming over the small community is a behemoth of a building. And yes, this is Trans-Allegheny is a large building. Spanning nearly 1,300 feet in length on a 600-acre lot, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is a testimony to mental health reform. At least it was at the time, much like the Eastern State. Peering into its unending hallways with the lenses of modern medicine, the asylum is no less brutal than the institutes that predated it, where the mentally ill were chained to walls with little to no clothes to cover them. So when the asylum opened in 1864, the Civil War was at its height. On the battlefield, a cutting edge medicine was a bottle of alcohol, a wooden spoon, and a rusty hacksaw. So it says, can you expect mental health to be treated with the same amount of grace? What remains after all the patients have checked out and the halls are left to decay? You have one of the most haunted places in West Virginia. So let us dive into the depths of madness and uncover the sanity of truth in one of America's most haunted destinations. So why is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum haunted? That is the question. The asylum had been in full service for 130 years, from 1864 to 1994. It was built to hold a capacity of 250 patients. By the 1950s, the population had peaked to nearly 2,400 patients. It was understaffed, it was underfunded, it was in disarray, and many patients who entered, unfortunately, did not leave. Those with no family to lay them to rest were buried in the asylum's private cemetery, which is usually called a pauper's grave or a potter's grave, a potter's cemetery. As the years progressed, patients would endure torture-like treatments by doctors, many of them dying in the process. As the number of patients grew, tighter and tighter living conditions caused many to act out in violence even going so far as to kill other patients or prisoners. 130 years of built up pain, anger, and neglect have turned the asylum into a hotspot for wandering spirits, some of them as dangerous after they passed away as they were when they were alive. So, a brief history. Pre-existing conditions, a brief history of mental health. Mental illness treatments have never been perfect, and unfortunately, they're getting better these days, modern times, but there's still questions and concerns about how mental health is treated even in 2025. Many argue it's still not perfect, but it has come a long way. Methods 50 years ago would seem archaic. Imagine what it was like 50 years before that, or even 50 years before that. So it has been a long road to get to where we are today, a road that many probably do not want to think about. It was not easy to navigate by any stretch of the imagination. One of the earliest known methods of mental illness treatment was called trepanation. Going back several thousand years, surgeons, so just trigger warning on all this. I think I do have it on the crawler, the creeper there. So surgeons would drill out or cut a piece of your skull to relieve pressure in your brain. It was a popular way to get rid of a headache. I would just take an aspirin, take a Tylenol, no, don't take Tylenol, take an ibuprofen. It would get rid of headaches, any mental disorder, or even believed demonic possession. So I guess they thought if they cut your hole in your skull, the demonic entity would come out. It says just don't ask your insurance about it. Don't know if insurance would cover something like that. Now, I do know people, even today, I'm sure it's a totally different method than they used back then. But some people today who have head injuries and they have swelling of the brain, they do, I think, or they used to, not too many years ago, they would cut a piece of the skull out to relieve some of the pressure. But anyway, bloodletting also became a popular treatment around the 1600s. The idea was that illnesses were caused by an imbalance in the body, and the best way to fix that imbalance was drain the body of impurities such as blood. However, it was institutions and asylums that were becoming the ideal method of dealing with mental illness around this time, a place where people with mental illness could be housed to receive treatment. In truth, asylums were a convenient way to isolate the mentally ill from society, basically just sweeping them under the carpet, except these were human beings, absolutely. As for their treatment, they were chained up, unclothed, and treated like animals, and that's just deplorable. If it hadn't been for Dorothea Dix's reformative acts, we might not have the sort of mental health care that we have today. So Dorothea Dix was a revolutionary reformer for mental health in the mid 1800s. She traveled the country documenting the poor treatment and conditions of asylums. With her findings, she was able to get new legislation passed to improve the conditions and care of mental institutions. Because of her efforts, the United States created several of the first institutions and places for the actual care and treatment of mental illness. Among these was the 1849 Trenton State Hospital, which is still used today. It was also the first to use Thomas Kirkbride's designs for mental institutes, which is called the Kirkbride Plan. So there were massive constructs, a main building with two protruding and linear wings on either side, kind of like bat wings. These plans were designed to allow ample air circulation and sunlight for the patients. The institutes were built to be self-sufficient with built-in water reserves, lands for farming. And it says the Trans-Allegheny just so happened to be a Kirkbride Plan Institute. So construction began in 1858. They said it couldn't have happened at a worse time. All construction halted in 1861 with the start of the Civil War. So I'm just trying to get through. I'm not going to read all the history. So the state of Virginia planned to seize $30,000 in gold coins from the Exchange Bank vault, money that had been set aside to pay the asylum's construction crew. Word of this looming heist reached the Union, which sent Colonel Tyler and his men to retrieve the gold. The plan went off without a hitch. The gold was routed to Wheeling with an armed guard escort. Instead of funding the Confederacy, the gold ended up funding the restored government of Virginia. So I'm assuming this money was supposed to have gone to, like they said, to the upkeep, go to the institution. So the final raid in 1964 stripped the institution of all food and clothes originally meant for incoming patients, though you would not imagine that they would be keen on opening the asylum during the war. Construction continued well into the nation's own reconstruction. In 1871, a 200-foot clock tower was added to the main building. And I think on the slide, you can see that clock tower there on the front of the building. And in 1873, a separate wing was added. Did this not load all the way? Because it like cuts off right in the middle. Says it wouldn't be until 1881 that the asylum was finally, I'm assuming they meant finished. Now, they didn't have anything about the hauntings. Hold on. I might have had something else. Look at Wikipedia. I think it has a... If it will load. Let me check your comments. Stormy says, I said I hated dolls. She said, you would hate my room then. We both have our own rooms and share a room. But my room has dolls everywhere. I collect other antiques too. I'm obsessed with vintage Pyrex. Oh my gosh, I remember Pyrex. My grandmother's house, we might still have some of her Pyrex dishes. I love vintage stuff also. Stormy says she goes antiquing every other week. That is awesome. Junior says he saw John Lennon sing "Give Peace a Chance." Excellent. I love John Lennon. Was probably, I don't know, he was probably my favorite member, my favorite Beatle. I do like Paul though. Thank you, Junior. He's probably gone. He says it's 11:20. I've been up since 6 a.m. Yes, Junior gets up with the chickens and goes to bed with the chickens. Thank you, Junior. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's 10:24 Central Time here. Stormy says the footage that they have of some of these old mental asylums are wild. The documentary Cropsey talks about Willowbrook Asylum. Cropsey, why is that name familiar? I have something saved in my browser on my phone about Cropsey. I think because maybe I found it because I think the Cropsey urban legend, whatever you want to call it, is based on what was his name? Rand, who's a serial offender, a suspected serial offender. Because I was going to do a video or something of that, or talk about it in the live stream at some point. Interesting that you brought that up. Okay, so let's see if Okay, so in pop culture, Trans-Allegheny has been featured as a haunted location on several paranormal television shows, including Ghost Stories, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Lockdown, as well as Portals to Hell and Sam and Colby. And most recently on Travel Channel's Destination Fear. I like to watch Destination Fear. It's also been featured in episode 60 of the podcast Lore. It's been featured on Expedition X on Discovery Channel. I thought I had an article that talked about the supposed hauntings. Maybe not, or maybe that I don't think that article I was reading from loaded completely. But anyway, it was the same usual suspects, you know, the shadow figures, the hearing voices, things of that nature. All right, so next we have, I think we have, this may be the last one. No, we have two more. The Whaley House, which is in San Diego, California, built on the site of a former graveyard and gallows in 1857. This house was also the location of a gruesome public execution. The restless spirit of Yankee Jim Robinson, a man hanged on the property, is said to haunt the home. So let me see what I had on it. While it's loading. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Wikipedia for a little bit of the origin. Thomas Whaley, of Scots-Irish origin, was born on October 5th, 1823 in New York. He was the seventh child in a family of 10. He took over his father's successful business relations, then left New York on January 1st, 1849. He traveled to San Francisco during the gold rush, where he engaged in business. He then went to San Diego in September of 1851. 2 years later, he went back to New York. He married Anna Eloise Delaunay on August 14th, 1953. They returned to California. They arrived back in San Diego in December of 1853. And then on August 22nd, 1957, that's when they moved into their new home, now known as the Whaley House. They had 6 children. So one of the children passed away, baby Thomas. They lost their business. They had a store. They lost it through fire. They moved to San Francisco. So the Whaley House is located at the Old Town neighborhood of San Diego. It opened up as a museum on May 25th, 1960. It is managed by the San Diego Historical Shrine Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization formed in 1956. It was designed by Thomas Whaley himself. Construction began on May 6, 1856. It was completed in 1857. The cost of the house was more than $10,000, which does not sound like it was a lot back in the day, but that's not a lot these days. I wonder what that would translate to in today's value, today's dollars. It was made from bricks created in Whaley's brickyard. And so rumors of hauntings. Shortly after the Whaley family moved in, they told the San Diego Union that they had heard heavy footsteps in the house, which they believed to be the ghost of James Yankee Jim Robinson, who had earlier been hanging on the property, who had earlier been hanged on the property for stealing a boat. It has been featured in many historical documentaries, as well as a wide variety of paranormal and sci-fi shows, including Sci-Fi Channel's Fact or Faked Paranormal Files. I used to watch that one too. Travel Channel's America's Most Haunted. in which it was stated that the Whaley House was the most supernatural home in the United States. It was mentioned in the 2007 animated movie Hellboy, Blood and Iron, in which one of the characters references the paranormal entity Yankee Jim. In 2012, an independent low-budget movie titled The Haunting of Whaley House. It says in 2012, the Whaley House was featured on the biography channels The Haunting of Regis Philbin. Do you guys remember Regis Philbin? Is he still around? Is he still with us, or did he pass away? So while filming for a local San Diego morning show in 1964, Regis Philbin visited the Whaley House, a museum, and claimed to have a paranormal encounter with Mrs. Whaley. Oh, really? Philbin stated, quote, "You know, a lot of people poo-poo it because they can't see it, but there was something going on in that house." Maybe Mrs. Whaley, the ghost of Mrs. Whaley, had a thing for old Regis. I don't mean to make light of it, but I found that funny. On an episode of MTV's Ridiculousness, host Rob Dyrdek commented that he lived next to, quote, the most haunted house in California, and would spend nights calling out for Old Man Whaley. It was featured on Ghost Adventure, an episode of Ghost Adventures. All right, let's see if I had another article about the actual hauntings, supposed hauntings. Okay, so this, if it loads, this is from the horrorcollection.com, the Whaley House haunting. That just kills me about Regis. The haunting of Regis Philbin. If anybody is going to be haunted, I guess it would be, if I hit the right button, old Regis. So the Whaley House haunting, America's most terrifying ghost story. Excuse me. So, however, the Whaley House is a Greek Revival style brick mansion built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, who was a prominent pioneer merchant and businessman. However, tragedies marked the home's early years: infant deaths, a devastating fire, and a daughter's taking of her own life, contributing to reports of apparitions, unexplained sounds, and cold spots. Like I said, there's a pattern here with these hauntings. That persists today, now operated as a museum by Save Our Heritage organization. The Whaley House draws historians, tourists, and paranormal enthusiasts alike, offering guided tours of the blend of factual history with accounts of its eerie reputation as one of America's most haunted houses. Sorry, I'm just going through ads. So, the Whaley House haunting refers to a series of alleged paranormal phenomena tied to its grim foundations and the sorrows of its inhabitants, built on the site of multiple executions, including the 1852 hanging of thief James Yankee Jim Robinson. The house quickly earned a grim reputation. Even the Whaleys themselves reported heavy, lumbering footsteps in 1857, just months after they moved in, believing them to stem from Robinson's restless soul. Over time, manifestations expanded to include full-bodied apparitions of family members, such as the patriarch Thomas Whaley in his frock coat, or the spectral form of his daughter Violet peering mournfully from windows. So the Whaley House owes its dark legacy to a combination of factors: violence, loss, and misfortune that shadowed its construction and occupancy from the outset. Built in 1857 on San Diego Avenue in Old Town, directly atop the town's former gallows. See, that's why they made this state. You never build on top of graveyards, on top of execution sites. The site already bore the stain of public executions. Once again, most most infamously on September 17th, 1852, James Yankee Jim Robinson, who was a strapping Irish-American sailor turned horse thief, met his end there. He was convicted of stealing the brig Pilot, which I'm assuming is the boat, for a joyride. He dangled from the noose for 11 minutes. His 6'4" frame leaving deep impressions in the soil that later became the house's foundation. I'm telling you, that's where they went wrong. There's your problem. So witnesses described his final words as defiant curses against the court uttered under a clear California sky. His body swung as a warning to outlaws in the fledgling Pueblo. So a few years later, Thomas Whaley chose the very spot of Robinson's execution to build his home. Whaley imported red bricks from his own brickyard to craft the first two-story brick residence in Southern California. Interesting. Yet prosperity dodged him early, just 4 days before the families move in on August 1st, 1857. His San Francisco hardware store burned to the ground in a blaze that claimed $20,000 in goods, which is equivalent to over $600,000 today. The Whaleys, Thomas, his wife Anna, and their growing family moved into their new home. However, Thomas later confided to the San Diego Union that the structure felt cursed and that there was something wrong with the house. Well, that's what you get for building it on top of a gallows, an execution site. Anyway, at least it wasn't the story. It's usually a Native American burial site that they build stuff on. On November 16th, 1858, Thomas Whaley Jr., who was just 17 months old, tragically passed away from scarlet fever in an upstairs bedroom. His mother, Anna, was devastated. She refused to leave his side for days. From 1869 to 1871, the Whaley House became the county courthouse. In 1870, a mob stormed the building, threatening Anna at gunpoint to get public records during a political crisis. Although she wasn't harmed, the incident left her feeling haunted by what she called a dark presence. In the same year, the family was struck by fire again. Thomas's store caught fire, burning it to the ground, leaving him temporarily bankrupt. Locals whispered that the ashes carried bad omens. The worst tragedy came in 1885 with the heartbreak of their daughter, Violet, after marrying a con artist named Thomas C. Whaley, who was not related. She discovered that he was already married, so she fled back home. Shunned by the local community due to gossip, Violet wrote a desperate letter to her mother on August 26th that said, quote, "Oh, mother, what shall I do? No one will speak to me," end quote. And then the next day, she locked herself in an upstairs bedroom and took her own life at just 22 years old. Her father discovered her body and a diary that she had clutched tightly. While the coroner ruled it as self-harm, people speculated about possible foul play. God, that reminds me, we'll get back to this, but and her name, once again, the girl's name just flew out of the one that supposedly committed, took her own life, but she was stabbed 20 times, and they redid another autopsy or whatever, and they still ruling into self-harm. Oh, what is her name? You guys can remind me in chat. Her name is on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, she was stabbed like 20 times and all over the body, in the back of the head. But it was self-harm. It wasn't foul play. Anyway, that's what that reminded me of. But that wasn't all. The family faced another tragedy when their infant daughter, Corinne Lillian, passed away in 1861 from unknown causes. Thomas Whaley passed away on November 26, 1890, at the age of 67 due to health complications. Anna, the wife, the mother, the matriarch, passed away on December 24th, 1912, at 82. She passed away peacefully in the parlor, surrounded by memories of her lost children. Their son Francis was the last family member to live in the house. He moved out in 1953. After that, the building fell into disrepair until it was restored in 1960 by the San Diego Historical Shrine Foundation. So some of the possible, supposed haunting, 1857 footsteps of Yankee Jim. In the autumn of 1857, mere weeks after the Whaley family unpacked their belongings, Thomas and Anna began documenting an unsettling phenomenon that would define the house's haunted lore. They said night after night, heavy, deliberate footsteps, described as the thud of boots on uneven planks, resounded from the staircase in the upper hallway, descending with laborious slowness, as if burdened by great height and weight. Thomas, who was a pragmatic man, first dismissed the sounds as settling timbers in the new brick structure. Yet when inspections revealed no drafts, no rats, no loose floorboards, he turned to local gossip. He concluded that the noise was likely related to James Yankee Jim Robinson, who was the one that was executed 5 years earlier, who was hung on the very spot where they built the house. So Anna corroborated the accounts in letters to relatives, noting the steps halted abruptly at the ninth tread, a detail eerily mirroring the 1870 mob standoff on that stair. According to Anna's diary, Thomas sprinkled holy water procured from a traveling priest. At the same time, she lit candles in the parlor, whispering prayers against, quote, the hangman's grudge. So in 1858, they also had the cries of little Thomas Jr. In November of 1858, the Whaley House faced a heartbreaking tragedy when 17-month-old Thomas Jr. fell seriously ill with scarlet fever in the upstairs nursery. This room held his cradle and a small wooden horse. Just days before, he had been a lively toddler, but the illness took a quick turn for the worse. And on the 16th, he passed away in his mother Anna's arms, his last cries echoing in the quiet home. So after he was buried at El Campo Santo Cemetery, Anna began to hear those same cries again coming from the empty nursery, along with the sounds of a child. She also noticed what sounded like giggles. As time passed, strange occurrences became increasingly frequent. Doors would open on their own. Cold draft filled the air, even when the fires below were burning bright. The house staff whispered about Thomas Jr.'s spirit being reluctant to leave, with one maid named Eliza claiming to have seen a ghostly little boy rocking in the cradle, reaching for an invisible toy. Thomas, he was still skeptical, but he decided to install a bell cord to call for help when needed. However, the cord was tugged at odd times, as if someone was trying to get his attention. So by 1860, the nursery had gained a reputation for being haunted. Anna's later children, like their daughter Corinne, were so unnerved that they chose to sleep in the parlor instead. So in 1885, we had the apparition of Violet Whaley. She was the daughter who took her own life. On August 27th, 1885, another tragic event happened at the Whaley House. Violet, who was just 22, took her own life after being abandoned by her husband, facing harsh judgment from society. The local newspaper even labeled her as a fallen woman. So heartbroken, Violet went to her bedroom. She wrote a note that said, "Madness has claimed me," and moments later, a gunshot broke the quiet afternoon. So her brother Thomas found her slumped against the wall with blood on her collar and a small gun nearby. Despite efforts to clean the stains, they reportedly returned with each full moon, according to family stories. Soon after her passing, people began to report seeing Violet's ghost. Witnesses described her as wearing a gray mourning dress and had just, sad, empty eyes. Some claimed to see her walking through the hallway or lingering near old photographs of happier times. By 1886, visitors, including opera singer Elena Gilbert, reported feeling chills and even experienced a gentle tug on their sleeve near the ninth stair, accompanied by an eerie sigh. So there's something about this ninth stair. So in the 20th century, ghost investigators like parapsychologist Hans Holzer in 1965 used instant cameras to capture images that seemed to show Violet's spirit, often around the parlor where she had once spent time creating her crafts. So in October 2014, the Ghost Adventures team, led by Zach Bagans, Nick Groff, and Aaron Goodwin, visited the Whaley House for a special investigation. They were drawn to its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Once again, all these famous places are the most haunted places in America. So one of their main focuses was the staircase said to be linked to the spirit of Yankee Jim. And they said almost immediately they noticed strange electrical readings that were much higher than normal. Zach wanted to provoke a response. He stood on the ninth step and challenged the spirit, asking Yankee Jim, "Show yourself." Soon after, they recorded eerie sounds on their devices that seemed to say, "Leave, thief." At one point, Nick felt something scratch him, leaving 3 painful marks on his arm. At the same time, supposedly Aaron captured a video of a tall figure moving upstairs that seemed to distort the air around it. The team then moved to the nursery, where they believed they heard the voice of a baby, baby Thomas. The spirit box produced sounds that resembled a child calling for their mother, saying things like, "Mama, I'm cold." They also said they saw mysterious lights in the parlor area, which coincided with strange sighs that sounded like a woman's breath. They did a seance while they were there. They used a special camera that creates stick figure images, and I do watch Ghost Adventures just for the pure entertainment of it, because Ghost Adventures, I don't know if any of you guys have watched it, is very over the top. It's very extra, but it's entertaining. So they do use this special camera that supposedly shows stick figures of ghostly apparitions. So they used a special camera with the stick figure images in an attempt to connect with the spirits. They caught what looked like a figure in a coat, bowing before it disappeared. After reviewing their findings, they discovered clear recordings of a child's laugh while they were asking questions, so on and so forth. So as far as theories, numerous theories attempt to explain the Whaley House haunting, ranging from supernatural persistence to psychological and environmental factors, residual energy, which that's another popular thing in the paranormal world. One popular theory suggests the Whaley House may capture residual hauntings, which are non-interactive echoes of intense emotional events that replay like a looped recording in the environment. So in other words, it's not like what they call a spirit that will communicate with you then and there. It's just what they like to say, residual energy from some kind of emotional or tragic event that happened in the house that just keeps playing on a loop over and over. So the gallows site, 1852 execution of Yankee Jim, marked his prolonged death throes and curses may have imprinted this violent energy into the soul. Therefore, the mysterious footsteps may represent the psychic residue of his final strides to the noose. Sorry, my ear was itching. Let's see, what else? Similarly, Violet's 1885 self-harm, laden with despair, could manifest as her apparition in moments of quiet triggered by lunar cycles or barometric shifts that replay the trauma. Proponents, including parapsychologist William Rowe, argue that such imprints occur in limestone-rich areas, which is another, people say, paranormal people in the paranormal world say that limestone, a lot of different kind of rocks, but especially limestone kind of absorbs the energy in the spirits, or attracts the energy in the spirits. Such as those found in San Diego's geology, where quartz crystals amplify electromagnetic residues from stress hormones released during death. Hans Holzer's 1965 probe supported this, noting auditory loops in the nursery aligning with Thomas Jr.'s cries, consistent but unresponsive to provocation. Advocates of intelligent hauntings, which is, the spirit is actually there interacting with you, theorize that the Whaley House entities, Yankee Jim, the Whaleys, are aware, autonomous spirits bound by unfinished earthly business, interacting deliberately with the living. Yankee Jim's footsteps, which were responsive to taunts during the 2014 investigation, imply vengeful intent. EVPs, which are electronic, now I forgot what EVP stands for, and I know this. I watched so much of this. Electronic voice phenomenon, I think it's called. Growling thief, echo his trial grievances over a botched boat theft conviction. Violent sightings, often near mirrors, suggest a quest for validation. Witnesses report her form dissipating after empathetic words such as "you're forgiven." This aligns with spiritualist views and texts like the Nightside Report, which is put out in the 1960s, where mediums channeled Thomas Whaley, expressing protectiveness over his home, which manifested as cold spots to ward off intruders. So a fringe theory claims that the Whaley House may actually be a dimensional portal, or like a portal to hell, or to some other plane of existence, where thin veils between realms widened by trauma allow crossovers from parallel planes. The gallows ley line alignment, according to dowsers, is said to funnel energy. Yankee Jim's execution was what they called a violence vortex, toward the fabric, enabling entities to slip through, which explains the phenomenon of shapeshifter, and shapeshifters is a whole other can of worms. The shapeshifter apparitions, tall men transforming into children, that's horrifying. This is a long article. I'm just trying to get to the... So is the Whaley House haunting real? I'll let you decide. So the Whaley House is a fascinating part of San Diego's history, blending real-life tragedies with stories of the supernatural. Here, visitors often hear about the experiences of the Whaley family. No doubt they had their unfair share of tragedy. Who lived there in the late 1800s, as well as modern-day accounts of eerie sounds recorded during careful investigations. While some explanations for these experiences involve phenomena such as infrasound, which is low-frequency sounds that can cause feelings of unease. Yes, what's it called? The something cage. Because certain frequencies can cause feelings of uneasiness. I forgot, in the paranormal world they call it something. It's the something cage, where if you're surrounded by a lot of like electronical equipment or things that are emitting high infrasound, electric infrasound, you do get this feeling of an uneasiness. It's a suggestion that many of the strange occurrences, such as footsteps, stopping on the night stair, or cries associated with specific death dates, are difficult to explain away. So this leaves plenty of room for curiosity alongside the facts. So while there's no solid proof that any ghosts exist, the house's mystery draws in thousands of visitors each year. Some leaving skeptical and others feeling convinced of its haunted reputation. So I would actually like to visit the Whaley House. I think that would be very interesting. But anyway, I'm sure you guys have some things to say about this or anything else. And once again, I thought I marked where I left off here. Sorry, I need a drink. Stormy was on the phone. You're fine. Okay, so Stormy says we were talking about Cropsey earlier. Says yes, Cropsey was an urban legend, but it was a man. So it was based on. I can't remember. Let me look it up right quick. I know I have it saved on my phone. I don't have it saved on the computer. Oh shoot! I just closed the tab. Hold on. I can't remember what the man's name is. I don't want the film. I want the So Cropsey, New York's terrifying urban legend. I don't know if this will load or not. Oh, what was his? Andre Rand. That was his name. Supposedly, the Cropsey urban legend was kind of based on Andre Rand. No, that's not loading. Let me just look up Andre Rand. Now that I finally remembered or found his name. Oh, come on. No, I want. Why are you not? This is irritating me. What did I do? Nope, nope. Oh my goodness. There it goes. Okay. So Andre Rand. So Andre Rand was born Frank Rostam Rashawn in 1944, also known as Frank Bruchette, and dubbed the Pied Piper of Staten Island, is an American convicted child kidnapper, SO, and suspected serial offender who is currently serving 2 sentences of 25 years to life in prison for the abduction of 2 girls aged 7 and 12 on Staten Island, New York. He is eligible for parole in 2037. Rand is the subject of the 2009 documentary Cropsey, which speculates that he may have been the source of an urban legend known by that name. So yeah, we'll like I said, I had planned. I'd just through browsing and research, I came across this, and I had planned on either doing a video or maybe talking about him in a live stream at some point. Stormy says it's a good documentary, and Josh Zeman, the director, has a YouTube. He does lives. I might have to check that out. He's done a lot of good stuff. Julie says that would be about 372,000. Oh, you must be talking about. She must have done the money. We was talking about money, I think, with the Whaley House, or the goods. Maybe how much the goods cost when the store burned down. What that translated into today's money. Mark says, I think he was doing research on unsolved homicides along highways in the U.S. Okay, thank you. Julie says, Regis, we were talking about Regis earlier, passed away 5 years ago at age 88. Yeah, I couldn't remember if he was still alive or not. Hey, Josh. There's my buddy Josh. How you doing, friend? He says, "Oh wow, you're still on. I was busy with homework. Regis is unfortunately no longer with us. Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for. Yeah, we're still on. We went 4.5 hours last night. This is the second part, the conclusion, because we made it through 6 of the places last night. I think I had 10 in all, and after 4.5 hours, we're like, we got to call it quits. Everybody was getting tired. I was getting tired. My voice was going. I had to take a potty break. I was running out of things to drink, which I have my Coke Zero tonight, and I did remember to bring a bottle of water back here with me. But good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good Halloween. I don't know if you did anything for Halloween. I was here sitting in this chair doing this last night for 4.5 hours for Halloween, but I would not have wanted to be anywhere else. Absolutely. Please do check out Where Lavender Grows, Josh's channel. He was kind enough to invite me on was last Sunday. We talked about some cold cases from the Southern Plains or the South Plains. Enjoyed it immensely. Yes, Ellen Greenberg. Thank you, Josh. The Ellen Greenberg. Didn't they just do like another autopsy or examination, a different ME or a coroner or whatever? They're still trying to say it was self-harm. Are you kidding me? That just drives me nuts. In my opinion, there's no way. There's no way. Thank you, Josh. Josh says, I have to get back to homework. Have a good rest of the Halloween weekend. Thank you, Josh, for dropping in. Always a pleasure to have you here. Yes, Paula says, for a haunted house, it is beautiful. Yes, it is a beautiful home. Absolutely. Yes, Stormy says, spirit boxes irritate me. I know, because for anybody who doesn't know, doesn't watch any paranormal stuff, a spirit box supposedly takes different radio frequencies and just cycles through them very fast, and supposedly the spirits can talk through the spirit box using these radio frequencies. I mean, and on these ghost hunting shows because you can catch, because it does, catch little bits and pieces of words or voices scanning through these radio frequencies. But you can hear anything you want to hear. If you go into it thinking that you are going to hear a voice, a spirit's voice, you're going to hear it in your head at least. And now, if you go into it thinking, skeptical, you might not so much so. And a lot of times on these ghost hunting shows, I'm sure they do have, a crew member and out in the the truck or whatever that can speak through and say anything, and make it come through the spirit box, like a spirit saying it. But yeah, they do irritate me too. Miss Paula says she has the World Series on in the background. Yeah, I had I guess the ball game's over. I'm not going to look to see who won the Oklahoma game. I recorded it. I'll watch the end of it at some point. Thank you, Princess. She says, have a good night, everyone. I have to go early tonight. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. It's a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, Mr. Rand is still incarcerated, 81 years old. What did I say? He would be eligible for parole in 2037. Yeah. Mustang says, I watch those spirit box videos for entertainment purposes only. Yes, I watch all the ghost hunting shows for entertainment purposes. I watch them for entertainment purposes, and like I said, once again, just for the history of the places that they're investigating. I find the history fascinating, especially with places, like the abandoned prisons and insane asylums and things of that nature. I just love hearing the history of And even just the houses, like the Whaley House, the history is fascinating to me. All right, I think we have one more to get through. Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. Let me get it loading. Let's see what I had. Let's see. Okay, I think this is the one I'm going to read from the horrorcollection.com, which I think is what, because the horrorcollection.com website and the US Ghost Hunters website have just interesting, they're a little hyperbolic in the way they, write it, but it's very interesting. Lots of good interesting information. Well, I can hit the right button and not throw myself out of the studio. So the Lemp Mansion haunting, true stories of footsteps, cold spots, and EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomenon, supposedly. Oh, so so the Lemp Mansion is a splendid Victorian estate in St. Louis, Missouri. Now that would be close enough for me to travel to. It was built in the late 19th century by the affluent Lemp family, pioneers in the American brewing industry. So that might, maybe they were sampling their own product. Maybe that has something to do with things they heard. So as a symbol of their success during the rise of their Falstaff beer empire. Yet, following a cascade of family misfortunes, including multiple self-harms and the collapse of their business, the property earned a chilling reputation once again as one of America's most haunted houses. Even today, visitors describe unexplained cold spots, strange footsteps, apparitions. Once again, the usual suspects resembling the departed Lemps. Family members. That sounded weird. The Departed Lemps. That could be the name of a band. The Departed Lemps. Now playing at your local bar. Anyway. So what is the Lemp Mansion haunting? The Lemp Mansion haunting revolves around the intelligent apparitions and the poltergeist. Now, poltergeist, or in that movie, freaks me out too, Poltergeist. And there is a supposed curse around that movie, the Poltergeist movie curse. So the intelligent apparitions and the poltergeist-like disturbances tied to the site's tragic past. Built as a lavish home for the Lemp brewing dynasty, the 33-room estate witnessed the family's dramatic fall from grace, marked by taking self-harms, illnesses, and financial ruin. Paranormal claims appeared prominently after the property's decline into a boarding house in the 1940s, when residents reported eerie knocks and footsteps echoing through empty corridors. Today, manifestations included mysterious figures, often described as men in 19th century suits, or a forlorn child appearing in mirrors or doorways. See, mirrors kind of freak me out too. I don't like, of course, I get, look in the mirror to brush my hair and do whatever, but if I happen to be passing by a mirror and just happen to catch my peripheral vision, think I see something that's not supposed to be there. Anyway. So cold drafts sweep through sealed rooms, doors creak open without touch, and faint cries or laughter pierce the silence, particularly in the attic. These events suggest restless spirits, possibly bound by unresolved grief from the family's calamities. Paranormal investigations, from amateur ghost hunts to professional teams like TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, or Ghost Hunters TV show in 2010, have captured electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, and anomalous images reinforcing the mansion's status as a nexus of supernatural manifestations. So the mansion was built during the period of rapid growth associated with the Industrial Revolution. A German immigrant, Adam Lemp, arrived in St. Louis in 1836, laying the groundwork for what became the William J. Lemp Brewing Company. His son, William J. Lemp Sr., how can he be senior? Anyway, elevated the enterprise to national prominence by the 1860s, producing Falstaff Lager, a crisp, innovative beer that dominated the market. In 1968, the family acquired the DeMenil Place property, transforming it into a sprawling Victorian mansion with 33 rooms, ornate woodwork, and underground tunnels. See, now I would like to explore me some underground tunnels. I think that would be fascinating. Connecting to their nearby brewery caverns. Once again, I can't talk. Expansion continued into the 1870s. The estate featured lavish gardens, a billiard room, and opulent suites, yet prosperity masked brewing storms. William Sr.'s favorite son, Frederick, who was supposed to inherit the business, succumbed to heart failure in 1901 at the age of 28, a blow that shattered the patriarch. Devastated, William Sr. GSW'd himself in the mansion's second floor bedroom on February 13th, 1904. His body was discovered by a servant with the firearm still clutched in his hand. But that was only the beginning. William Jr., known as Billy, assumed leadership of the brewery, but he faced the shadow of prohibition. His marriage to Lillian Hanlon, dubbed the Lavender Lady for her perfume, it dissolved acrimoniously in 1909 in scandalous divorce proceedings, where she alleged his infidelity and neglect. Billy, who was increasingly reclusive, ended his life with a GSW to the head in the same bedroom as his father on December 7th, 1922. He was found slumped over his desk with a single shell casing nearby. Sister Elsa Lemp Wright, entangled in her own marital woes, she took her own life in her St. Louis apartment on May 5th, 1920. Though off-site, her death deepened the family's despair. Brother Charles, a banker who decided to stay away from the family business, retreated to the mansion with his loyal dog. And on May 10th, 1949, at age 76, he wrote a terse note, quote, "Blame it on no one but me," end quote, before taking the life of the pet in the basement and then turning it on himself in his third floor bedroom. However, it gets even worse. There were even darker secrets beneath these horrors. William Jr. fathered an illegitimate son around 1904. He was born with Down syndrome and severe physical deformities. He had a cruel nickname. I'm not going to say it because it's horrible. He was confined to the attic, hidden from society until he passed away in 1904 at the age of 6. Whispers of abuse and isolation persist, with some accounts suggesting that he was starved or neglected amid the family's chaos. The brewery faltered after Prohibition, filing for bankruptcy in 1919. Its assets were liquidated by 1922. The mansion, sold after Charles's death, devolved into a dilapidated boarding house by the 1940s. Its grandeur eroded by neglect, mirroring the Lemp's fractured legacy. So during the 1970s renovations, workers discovered hidden rooms and artifacts, and also the first reports of tools vanishing, shadows flittering around the room, fires, though minor, damaged sections in the early 20th century, adding to the aura of curse-like misfortune. The litany of self-harm situations, 4 in total, 3 that have been in the mansion, intertwined with illness, scandal, and economic ruin, forms the crucible for the Lemp Mansion haunting. So during World War II, the Lemp Mansion changed from a private home into a simple boarding house, attracting temporary residents with its faded charm as St. Louis changed around it. We'll go through all that because I'm afraid Dave's going to be starting here in a little bit. So they went through renovation, things that happened during the renovations. Says one plumber, while fixing pipes in the basement, felt a chilling touch on his neck, followed by a deep sigh that echoed through the tunnels as tools dropped without explanation. By 1975, half of the workers had quit, claiming they were too frightened to continue with the renovations. One of them even wrote in a sworn statement how a ghostly figure, a tall man in a suit with a noticeable mustache, appeared in a mirror on the second floor, only to vanish when approached. Just making sure I get some notifications on my phone, making sure. Okay. Cold spots were felt, blah, 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 all the same things. So TAPS investigated it in 2010. They found that, well, I'm not going to go through everything they found. Same old, same old. I've been on here almost 3 hours again. In 2023, a Hulu series called Living for the Dead explored the haunt of the Lemp Mansion. I've never heard of that one. I haven't watched that one. Just going through to see. So once again, they have the theories, the same as we discussed before, psychological residue from the trauma, family trauma, intelligent haunting by unresolved spirits of the Lemp family members, electromagnetic anomalies from geological features like the limestone that we talked about before, residual energy imprints from historical events, blah, blah, blah. Cultural amplification through media and tourism. Modern ghost stories may be fueled by suggestion, as shows like Ghost Hunters set the stage for visitors to expect spooky experiences. It's like I was talking about earlier. If you go in believing and expecting that you're going to see or hear something unnatural, you're going to hear it, whether or not it's real or not. Much like the placebo effect, which leads people to report more unusual occurrences. For instance, one episode in 2010 led to a 300% increase in reported sightings at an allegedly haunted inn. Tours often share stories of tragedies that happen at these sites, which can make people see shapes in the shadows that aren't really there. The power of suggestion. Let's see if there's anything else of interest besides the same. So, is Lemp Mansion haunting real? The Lemp Mansion is a fascinating place filled with history and a touch of mystery, largely due to the tragic stories associated with it that spark interest in the supernatural. While some people attempt to explain what happened there through scientific reasons, such as strange energy readings or psychological factors, the repeated reports of ghostly sightings over the years from residents in the 1940s to modern day investigators make it difficult to ignore these experiences. Many witnesses claim to see apparitions that resemble members of the Lemp family, and some even capture sounds from the past that convey deep sorrow. This suggests that there might be more to these encounters than just coincidence. However, it is essential to study these phenomena carefully and without bias. Absolutely. You just have to go into it with an open mind. Not going in saying, yes, I definitely believe I'm going to see or hear something, or, on the other end going in saying, oh, it's all fake. I'm not going to hear anything. Just go into it with an open mind and just see what happens. Something may happen, something may not happen. Anyway, I think that was the last one that we had. Yes, it is. So let me get caught up on your comments. We will get out of here for the night and see. Dave may be starting soon. That's why I was checking my comments. I had some notifications that came up, but I didn't see anything about Dave starting yet. So, and once again, I'm gonna have to rest my voice really good tomorrow, so I'll be ready for Monday when we get back to serious business with the missing person Monday, or I'm not going to make it through it. Let's see. Get back to where I was at. Ooh, my feet and toes are frozen. Yeah, Mustang says the Poltergeist movie is creepy, and so is The Curse. Yeah, because you had the I think more than one. You had a little girl that played. They're here. I can't even remember. My mind is shut down already. The actress Heather, I can't remember her last name. She passed away. She had some kind of disease or something. I can't remember what it was now. Yeah, just lots of stuff. Supposed curses associated with the movie. Thank you, Mustang is putting in links. Thank you, Stormy, for being here. She says she's going to bed. Good night, friends. Thank you. Yeah. Mustang said, anyone else still here? It shows on StreamYard 4 people. Are you talking about the the Lemp Mansion? Yeah, Mustang says that house has way too many windows. I know. But it had 33 rooms, I think it said. So I guess it has a window in every room. See, that's the way I am. Mustang says, I've never seen a ghost, but I'm not a disbeliever. So that's the way I am. I mean, there could be ghosts out there. Just because I've never seen one personally doesn't mean that they're not, that they're not out there. So I have an open mind either way. Thank you very much, Mustang. Sorry, I was puffing on my vape. Boston Christian still here. Thank you. Yeah. Mustang said, dang, who really needs three window rooms? 32 rooms. Yeah, it was like 32 or 33 rooms. I know. Especially when all the family, most of them did away with themselves. So goodness gracious. But I think at least this one didn't, I didn't say it was built on top of any native burial ground, cemeteries, execution area, gallows like the other ones. Oh goodness. All right, so like I said, that was our last one. I need to get off here because I need to take a potty break before Dave starts in. So once again, we should be back Monday with Missing Person Monday. We'll be back to normal business around here. The whole reason for why we're usually here, bringing more awareness to missing persons. Once again, we're doing Phoenix, missing in Phoenix, Arizona. Yep, Miss Paula says Dave is going live tonight. Excellent. So missing person Monday will be usual time, 8:30 Central Time. So tomorrow I've got everything ready. Well, I say everything. I've got the cases picked out. I've got the slideshow done. I just have to do the research for the articles and then get all the Charlie Project information bookmarked on my computer, on my browser on my computer. So I'll have it all there. Yeah, Mustang says, see you in Al's live. Miss Paula says, did you see his post? No, I didn't see his post. What did it say? That he was going to go live tonight? And then, like I said, Thursday, I'll probably be able to do a True Crime After Dark with, I've got so much stuff once again built up, saved in my browser on my phone, articles that I come across about missing persons, cold cases, updates. Some of them, unfortunately, hit the anniversary marks of like 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be. So we'll go over that. I have about 3 or 4. And then if there's any current urgent, like silver alerts, amber alerts, or anything that might I might come across between now and Thursday, obviously I'll be sharing that those two. So please make it if you can live. If not, replay crew is awesome. So I was waiting to see what Miss Paula, if she was going to say anything about what Dave said in his post. But we're about the 3-hour mark, so I think I'm going to end it here because, like I said, I got to take care of some business before Dave starts so I can settle in with his, because Dave will be on for about 3 or 4 hours also, which is fine. I love Dave. Is awesome. He does an awesome job covering the week in true crime. He covers current situations. He usually features a cold case of the week, whatever current updates. Okay, so he's going to start at, so Ms. Paula says, due to the time change, technically starting at 2, even though it will be 1. So 1 Eastern time. So it'll be midnight my time. So in about 30 minutes. I'm assuming. Because I know Miss Paula is on the East Coast too. Dave's on the East Coast. So it'll be 1 East Coast time, midnight my time, Central time. All right. So if it's noon, if it's noon my time, midnight my time, I'm going to get off here and take care of my business and get settled in for his live stream. So I hope to see anybody who wants to come over and join us in Dave's live stream. Will be, yeah, it's usually, usually midnight our time. All right, so I'm going to end this. Yeah, our time. Pinch poke, you owe me a Coke. All right, so I'm going to shut up now and get off of here. Go take care of my business and get settled in for Dave. I hope to see you guys there. Like I said, if not, if you can't make it live, if you can't stay up, if you're not a night owl, please watch replay. Definitely worth it. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody who was here. Absolutely love you guys for hanging in, being silly. We love to be silly every once in a while. So I'm going to end it now, and I will see some of you guys over at Dave's. If I can figure out what I'm doing, what am I doing? There we go.